Whenever you picture Europe, you might imagine charming cafes nestled in cobblestone streets, historic landmarks whispering tales of centuries past, and a certain je ne sais quoi. But what if I told you that image, the Europe of postcards and travel brochures, is fading faster than a cheap bottle of sunscreen on the Costa del Sol? What if I told you the Europe of today is grappling with a crisis so large, so complex, it could shake the very foundation of the continent? Buckle up, because today we're diving headfirst into the murky waters of immigration in Europe and asking the question no one seems to want to answer. At what cost? Let's start with some hard numbers, shall we? As of 2020, there were nearly 87 million international migrants living in Europe, a staggering 16% increase from just 5 years earlier. That's roughly the equivalent of the entire population of Germany deciding to pack their bags and relocate within half a decade. And that's just the legal migrants. Every year, countless others slip through the cracks, crossing borders without a trace, their impact on society as invisible as their presence in official statistics. Now, I'm not saying every single one of those 87 million individuals is single-handedly responsible for the downfall of Western civilization, but the influx of people, regardless of their legal status or intentions, puts an undeniable strain on resources, infrastructure, and social cohesion. Don't just take my word for it. Throughout this video, we'll be looking at government figures, statistics, and reports that paint a stark picture of the challenges Europe faces. So join me as we embark on a whirlwind tour of 10 European countries, grappling with the consequences of immigration, from soaring crime rates to strained public services and the erosion of national identity. Oh, and before we start, a little favor to ask. If you find this video even remotely informative or entertaining, do give us a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us keep the lights on and the uncomfortable truths flowing. Now, let's get into it. Our first stop takes us to a nation that was once synonymous with global power and influence. Great Britain. Remember the British Empire, the sun never set on it? Well, those days are long gone, my friends. And while the reasons for Britain's decline are complex, it's impossible to ignore the role immigration has played. The UK has long been a destination for migrants seeking better opportunities, and for decades the country prided itself on its multiculturalism. But in recent years, the influx of migrants, particularly after the Syrian refugee crisis and the expansion of the European Union, has stretched the UK's social fabric thinner than a crumpet at a high tea party. Government figures paint a grim picture. Overcrowded hospitals, schools bursting at the seams, and a housing crisis so severe even Buckingham Palace might need to consider renting out a few spare rooms. And then there's the issue of crime. Now, I know what you're thinking. Correlation doesn't equal causation, and you'd be right. But when certain types of crime see a marked increase in areas with high migrant populations, it's a trend that simply can't be ignored. The Brexit vote, while driven by a multitude of factors, was undoubtedly fueled in part by anxieties over immigration. The message was clear. A significant portion of the British public felt their voices weren't being heard, their concerns dismissed. The question now is, can the UK find a way to balance its humanitarian obligations with the needs of its citizens? Or is this the beginning of the end for the once mighty United Kingdom? Next, we journey to Denmark, a land famed for its hygge lifestyle, its charming canals, and its increasingly strict immigration policies. Once considered a bastion of tolerance and social welfare, Denmark has undergone a dramatic transformation in recent years, with immigration becoming a hot-button issue that has polarized the nation. Faced with a surge in migrant arrivals, particularly from war-torn countries, Denmark has implemented some of the most restrictive immigration policies in Europe. From border controls tighter than a Viking's grip to reduced social benefits for newcomers, Denmark is sending a clear message: stay away. The government argues that these measures are necessary to protect Danish culture and the country's generous welfare system. They point to the strain on public resources, the rise in crime in certain areas, and the challenges of integrating people from vastly different cultures. Critics, however, accuse Denmark of abandoning its humanitarian principles and succumbing to xenophobia. They argue that the government is scapegoating immigrants for the country's problems and creating a climate of fear and suspicion. As Denmark grapples with these complex issues, one thing is clear: the fairy tale image of a happy, homogeneous society is fading faster than a sandcastle in a Danish storm. Our next stop takes us to the Netherlands, a country renowned for its tulips, windmills, and a certain laissez-faire attitude that has long made it a haven for free spirits and open minds. But even in the Netherlands, the winds of change are blowing, and they carry with them the chill of unease. Known for its tolerance and progressive policies, the Netherlands has become a magnet for migrants seeking a better life. But this influx of newcomers has put a strain on Dutch society, leading to tensions over housing, jobs, and cultural identity. The Dutch government, once a champion of multiculturalism, has taken a noticeable turn towards stricter immigration policies in recent years. Concerns over the integration of migrants, particularly those from Muslim-majority countries, have fueled the rise of right-wing populist parties, who argue that Dutch culture is under threat. The once harmonious Dutch society is now grappling with questions of identity, belonging, and the limits of tolerance. Can the Netherlands find a way to balance its tradition of openness with the challenges of integrating a rapidly changing population, or will the famed Dutch tolerance crumble under the weight of immigration? Our European exploration now takes us to Belgium, a country famous for its chocolate, waffles, and, well, a certain knack for complicated governance. But, the complexities of Belgian politics pale in comparison to the challenges posed by immigration, a force that is testing the very fabric of this small but divided nation. Belgium has long been a crossroads of cultures, a melting pot of languages and traditions. But in recent years, the influx of migrants, particularly from North Africa and the Middle East, has strained Belgium's social cohesion, revealing deep-seated divisions within its society. The country's bilingual and bicultural makeup, with its Flemish and Walloon communities often at odds, has made it difficult to forge a unified national identity, leaving many Belgians feeling like strangers in their own land. The arrival of large numbers of immigrants, many with different languages, religions and customs, has only exacerbated these divisions. The Belgian government has struggled to find a coherent response to the challenges of immigration. While some advocate for stricter border controls and a more assimilationist approach, others argue for greater multiculturalism and support for integration. As Belgium grapples with these complex issues, the question remains, can this small nation, already divided by language and culture, find a way to accommodate newcomers without further fracturing its fragile unity? We continue our journey through the heart of Europe, arriving in Austria, a land renowned for its stunning alpine scenery, its rich musical heritage, and let's not forget, a certain imperial past that casts a long shadow. But while Austria may be steeped in tradition, it is not immune to the forces of change sweeping across Europe, particularly the challenges posed by immigration. Austria, like many of its European neighbours, has experienced a significant influx of migrants in recent years, putting a strain on its social welfare system and sparking a debate about national identity. The arrival of large numbers of refugees, particularly from war-torn Syria, has tested Austria's capacity to accommodate newcomers and fueled anxieties about the changing face of Austrian society. The government has responded with a mix of humanitarian aid and stricter border controls, attempting to balance its compassion for those fleeing conflict with concerns about the country's ability to absorb large numbers of immigrants. This balancing act has proven difficult, with right-wing populist parties gaining ground by exploiting anxieties over immigration and cultural change. As Austria grapples with these challenges, the question remains, can this nation, so proud of its heritage and traditions, find a way to embrace diversity without losing its identity? Our journey through the complexities of immigration in Europe now takes us to Greece, the cradle of Western civilization, a land of ancient ruins, sun-drenched islands, and, well, a recent history marked by economic turmoil. But Greece's financial woes are just one chapter in its ongoing saga. Today, Greece finds itself on the front lines of another crisis, one that is testing its capacity for compassion and its ability to cope with the sheer scale of human displacement. As a gateway to Europe, Greece has become a major entry point for migrants and refugees fleeing conflict and poverty in the Middle East, Africa, and Asia. The images of overcrowded boats arriving on Greek shores filled with desperate souls seeking a better life have become all too familiar. The sheer number of arrivals has overwhelmed Greece's already strained resources, stretching its capacity to provide shelter, food, and medical care. The situation is particularly dire on the Greek islands close to the Turkish coast, where makeshift camps have become overcrowded and unsanitary. The Greek government, grappling with its own economic challenges, has struggled to cope with the influx. The situation has fueled tensions with other European countries, many of whom have been reluctant to share the burden of responsibility for the migrants. As Greece grapples with this humanitarian crisis, the question remains, can this ancient land, once a beacon of civilization, find a way to offer refuge to those in need without jeopardizing its own stability? From the sun-drenched shores of Greece, we journey westward to Italy, a land synonymous with romance, art, and a certain joie de vivre. But beneath the surface of Italy's famed beauty lies a growing unease, a sense that La Dolce Vita is slipping away, replaced by anxieties over security, identity, and the challenges of a changing world. Italy, like its Mediterranean neighbours, has become a major destination for migrants crossing the Mediterranean Sea, fleeing conflict, poverty, and persecution. While Italy has a long history of immigration, the recent influx has tested the country's capacity to absorb newcomers and fueled social tensions. The Italian government has struggled to find a coherent response to the crisis, caught between its humanitarian obligations and the growing popularity of anti-immigrant sentiment. The rise of right-wing populist parties exploiting fears about the impact of immigration on Italian culture and security has further complicated the situation. As Italy grapples with these challenges, the question remains, can this nation, so proud of its heritage and traditions, find a way to reconcile its past with its present, to embrace diversity without sacrificing its identity? Our European exploration now takes us to France, the land of romance, revolution, and a certain unwavering belief in the values of liberté, égalité, fraternité. But in recent years, these cherished principles have been tested as France grapples with the complex realities of immigration, a force that is reshaping the nation's social fabric and sparking a debate about its very identity. France has long been a destination for immigrants, attracting waves of newcomers from its former colonies and beyond. While immigration has enriched French culture in countless ways, it has also led to tensions, particularly in disadvantaged suburbs where integration has proven difficult. The French government has struggled to find a balance between promoting assimilation and respecting cultural differences. The debate over secularism, particularly the role of Islam in French society, has become a flashpoint for wider anxieties about the impact of immigration. The rise of right-wing populist parties exploiting fears about security and national identity has further polarized the debate. As France grapples with these challenges, the question remains: can this nation, so proud of its revolutionary ideals, find a way to reconcile its commitment to universal values with the realities of a diverse and rapidly changing society? Our journey through the heart of Europe now takes us to Germany, a nation with a complex and often troubled past, but one that has emerged as a beacon of stability and prosperity in the post-war era. But Germany, like many of its European neighbours, is facing a new set of challenges, driven in part by the forces of globalization and the movement of people across borders. Germany's decision to open its doors to refugees fleeing the Syrian civil war, a humanitarian gesture of unprecedented scale, has been both praised and criticized. While many Germans welcomed the newcomers with open arms, others expressed concerns about the long-term impact of such a large influx on German society. The integration of over 1 million refugees has tested Germany's capacity to provide housing, language training, and job opportunities. The situation has also fueled anxieties about security and the preservation of German culture, providing fertile ground for the rise of right-wing populist parties. As Germany grapples with these challenges, the question remains: can this nation, so defined by its past, find a way to embrace its future as a more diverse and multicultural society? Our final stop takes us to Sweden, a nation long admired for its social welfare model, its progressive values, and its stunning natural beauty. But even in this Scandinavian paradise, all is not well. Sweden, like many of its European neighbours, is grappling with the challenges of immigration, a force that is testing its famed social cohesion and sparking a debate about its future. Sweden's generous welfare system and its open-door policy towards refugees have made it a magnet for migrants from around the world. While many Swedes are proud of their country's humanitarian tradition, the influx of newcomers has put a strain on the country's resources and social fabric. The integration of immigrants, particularly those from non-European backgrounds, has proven more challenging than anticipated. The concentration of immigrants in certain neighbourhoods, coupled with high levels of unemployment and social isolation, has led to tensions and a rise in crime in some areas. The Swedish government, once a staunch advocate of multiculturalism, has been forced to rethink its approach, introducing stricter immigration policies and emphasizing the importance of integration. The rise of right-wing populist parties exploiting anxieties over immigration and cultural change has further polarized the debate. As Sweden grapples with these challenges, the question remains: can this nation, so proud of its egalitarian traditions, find a way to reconcile its commitment to openness with the need to preserve its social model and its sense of national identity? So there you have it, a glimpse into the complex realities of immigration in Europe. As we've seen, there are no easy answers, no simple solutions. The challenges are real, the tensions palpable. The very idea of Europe, a continent built on centuries of shared history and culture, is being tested as never before. But amidst the uncertainty, one thing is clear. Ignoring the issue or resorting to simplistic solutions will only exacerbate the problem. The way forward lies in honest dialogue, in finding ways to balance compassion with pragmatism, in building bridges of understanding rather than walls of division. So, I hope this video has given you some food for thought, some uncomfortable truths to chew on. If you've made it this far, thank you. Don't forget to like the video if you found it insightful or even mildly infuriating, and subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into the issues that matter. Until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and most importantly, stay skeptical.